just seen all the cards in the Hanson-Roberts deck. I'm reviewing this deck first because I've been reading with it professionally since 1990. So what I want to show you first is in reference to the Rider-Waite deck illustrated by Pamela Colman Smith. This is the standard that everybody's very familiar with, this deck, like I showed in the review or the introduction video. What I want to show you is how the Hanson-Roberts differs from it. It is based in the Pamela Colman Smith deck, so the imagery is very, very similar. If you are using the standard Rider-Waite, you're going to find a really easy transition to Hanson-Roberts because of the similarities. But so let's just look here. Here's the Fool from Pamela Colman Smith, and here's the Fool from Hanson-Roberts. So side by side here, what you're going to see right off the bat is just a different perspective. You're a little bit closer to the figures, not so distant, so it's sort of up close and personal and intimate. The other thing is that the artwork itself, it has a lot more depth to it, less cartoony, less flat. You see the shading, so there's a richness and a depth to them, but there's still a kind of a gentleness about it too. The color is not harsh at all. I find the images to be really, really pleasing. The main difference is in the faces. Look at the face from the Rider-Waite versus the face of the Hanson-Roberts. I can see what's going on in these people's faces with the Hanson-Roberts deck. I'm an empath, so I hook into emotions and, you know, the psycho-emotional, spiritual aspect of things, and I can really see what's going on in people's faces. Let's look at another example. We're just gonna go to the Magician. I apologize for the light glare. Again, we're closer up, and there's kind of a staticness to the Rider-Waite. Whereas with the Hanson-Roberts, you see that there's a dynamism there. You can see movement. I can see energy moving through the Hanson-Roberts Magician here. And then finally, let's look at the High Priestess. So you've got, again, up close. And the High Priestess is kind of inscrutable. You know, she doesn't have a lot of emotion on her face. It really is a card that talks about emotional detachment, but still there's just much more to her face. There's a depth to it, there's a roundness to it, and I find that very pleasing. A little bit of history with this deck. I started reading Pamela Colman Smith. I was given the Hanson-Roberts as a gift. When I first started reading with it, I was using the Celtic Cross as it was described in the Rider-Waite book. And I got the Hanson-Roberts and I started using that same Celtic Cross. They weren't clicking, they just weren't hitting for me. And then I looked through the book and I noticed that the Celtic Cross was a little bit different. You laid the cards out like this, 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 and this instead of around in a circle or vice versa, I can't remember. And the way they described each category was slightly different. So I thought, well, I'll read according to what's in their book. And as soon as I did, they started talking, and they've been talking ever since. Case in point. Here's another really good example of how I can see what's going on in the faces. If you look at this is the Page of Swords. And it's a card that talks about defendedness. And usually, you know, I can pick up this card and show it to who I'm reading for and go, look what's going on in his face. This guy's scared. He's defensive. So, you know, you can see the emotions. But I want to show you side by side the copy that I actually read with, because the one I showed you in the beginning there was a new one, and I hope you can catch just how kind of beat up they are because I've been reading with them since then. Interestingly, I bought the new copy and went to use it, and it doesn't read the same as my old copy. So I still use my old copy. I have a theory on that, and I won't go into that now. That's a whole video on its own. So show you a couple other things here. I love the blank card in this deck, you know, the quote-unquote blank card. Most decks literally have a blank card, and when that comes up, if you include it in your readings, it's like, whoops, can't know that. This one shows somebody pulling back a curtain, and it says to all believers. And I love this because what that is saying to me is you can't know, therefore it's a test of faith. What do you do when you don't know and when you can't know? Do you freak out? Do you relax? Do you go grasping after things, or do you just go on faith? It really, when that blank card comes up, it's a test of faith. It's really going to make that person discover what their foundation is and what they really believe in. So just to kind of keep this short, because it is just a review, as I said in the introduction review, I'm going to rate them. And I'm going to change it just a little bit. Pentacles are the value of the deck and the materials, the cost. Cups are going to be the artwork, and swords are going to be the writing, and I'll talk about that in a second. Wands are going to be how well this deck clicks for me. How, do I connect with it? Can I connect with it in a reading? Understanding, of course, that readings are subjective, and a deck that clicks for me might not click for somebody else, and vice versa. So there is no absolute rating here. This is all my opinion. This is how things work for me. I just want to, I mostly want to give you a chance to see all the cards in a deck and just, get somebody's opinion on it. So the writing, let's talk about the writing. The meanings in the book are not standard like the Rider-Waite meanings. And let me check that. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. It's something I forgot to prepare beforehand, sorry. And this is my first review. I'm sure there's going to be some tweaking going on. At any rate, let's go back to the Page of Swords here. To look at Rider-Waite, you see he's kind of got this almost a balletic pose. But again, not a lot going on in his face that you can really see. To go to the meanings in the book, little white book. I know Hanson-Roberts also has a set that you can get with a larger book that comes with it. The meanings are very, very similar to Rider-Waite, but they're not identical. Example, Rider-Waite says, a lithe, active figure holds a sword upright in both hands while in the act of swift walking. The divinatory meanings are authority, overseeing, secret service, vigilance, spying, examination, and the qualities thereto belonging. Kind of arcane language there. The Page of Swords in Hanson-Roberts says, the Page of Swords wears a fur hat and a regal costume with flowing cape. He clasps an upright sword in both hands. The divinatory meanings are vigilance, agility, spying, a discreet person, an active youth, a lithe figure. This card symbolizes a person adept at perceiving, discerning, and uncovering the unknown or that which is less than obvious, the quality of insight. Now, this is where, too, the cardinal rule of reading cards is when the cards start talking louder than the book, you throw the book away. The card, when I read it, talks about somebody being on the defensive, because that's what I see in his face. At any rate, you can see the differences and similarities between the writing of the Rider-Waite and the Hanson-Roberts. Hanson-Roberts is more current, more, the current time. The language isn't so old-fashioned as the Rider-Waite. So I'm going to cut to the chase here with the ratings, and for me, this deck hits 4 on all of the ratings. And that's personally me, because I've used it for so long, and it just really, really, really works, and I love the deck. You can get it, of course, from Amazon. It is published by US Games. The artwork is Mary Hanson-Roberts. I would highly recommend it. I've thought, when I've done tarot classes, I've thought about requiring that people start with a Hanson-Roberts deck, but when I teach tarot now, I really want to get people connected with their deck, whatever that deck is. So I don't tell them to go get a particular one. I let them bring, the deck that is their favorite, that vibes with them. And then if it doesn't work, if they find they really can't read that deck well, they can go on and try something else. At any rate, it's an excellent deck. I would recommend it to anyone as a beginner or a veteran. So thanks for watching. I'll get another review up pretty quickly. Peace.